Flippity is a website that takes content that you already have, whether it's a worksheet or a study guide, and quickly turns it into a fun activity for your students. All of these activities are built using Google Spreadsheets, but you also have the ability to skip the spreadsheet and use some of their activities without it. All of their activities have demos, so student perspective demos, instructions for how you create the activity, and a template that you can use to generate the activity. I like that this website gives you the e-learning recommendations, so they tell you which activities they recommend for online learning, some additional activities, and then they even give you some that they maybe don't recommend. But all of these activities give you step-by-step instructions. Anytime you want to get home, just click on Flippity at the top and it'll take you back. One of my favorite activities on Flippity is this manipulatives one, so I'm going to click on the demo. And you can see that all this is a drag and drop type of activity. Down at the bottom, you can choose what type of background you want your students to use. So maybe I want to organize these into 3 separate columns. So all you have to do is have your students just click and drag where they want. So maybe I would be sorting different types of systems of equations, or maybe I'm going to have my kids organize words based on noun, verb, adjectives. All the backgrounds that are on here, you can choose. These are all of the defaults, but say you want your students to label a map, you could have a map be your background. So after you do the demo, if you like the activity, you can click on Want to Make Your Own, and it's going to take you to the step-by-step directions. The first step for all of the activities is to make a copy of the template. So I'm going to make a copy, and this is taking me to a Google Sheet. So I'm going to say, yes, make a copy. And now it opens up a Google Sheet. So when I look at the directions, it says make a copy, edit the terms. It gives the options to edit the backgrounds, colors, adding any sort of code for the colors, etc. It gives me this red direction that says do not edit any cell with a blue background. So I'm going to go back to my Google Sheet. Here are my terms. So those are all the words that I was dragging and dropping. And here is the option to give those colors. So maybe I would want to color code specific things. So you would just click in here, add in whatever it is that you want. Run. Whatever. So you're just clicking in and you're typing in the words that you want. You can also click and drag and delete out words that you don't want. So maybe I don't want those colors in there. Backgrounds. You can see that these are the default picture backgrounds that Flippity already provided us. If you don't want there to be an option, if you say you want your students just to do a Venn diagram or just to do a column, you could delete every background out except for the one that you want your students to use. If you want to give them options, just make sure you explain that to your kids. So I don't want this one, so I'm going to delete that out. And maybe I don't want that one. I don't want any of those, so I'm just highlighting and deleting these out. All right, and maybe I want the Venn diagram to be first. All right, so those are the backgrounds that I want to use. You have the Options tab, so display random. Do you want it to be random or do you want it to be in order? So that's the only option that this activity gives. So I'm just going to leave it random. Once you're done adding in all of your information, you're going to click File and then Publish to the web. Click the green Publish button. And then it says that it's published. I'm going to X out of that box. And finally, I'm going to go to the Get Link Here tab, click on the link. And now you can see that we're taken to my activity. So you can see I deleted all of those other backgrounds out except for the few I wanted to keep, and I deleted a lot of those words out. So now these are my words. I still can click down here on the settings and you can see that only those backgrounds that I wanted show up here. So I'm going to say I want the 4 columns. And I'm going to tell my students how I want them to do the activity. For your students to submit this to you, they would take a screenshot of their work, and then they could submit it to you through Schoology. What I like about Flippity is that, say I made a mistake on this activity and my students pointed it out to me, I can go back to that Google Sheet that I made my edits on and say I didn't mean to have this word in here. I didn't want Oscar to be in there. I meant for that instead to say Bob. So now I'm going to just update it on my Google Sheet. I'm going to come back to my manipulatives, and now that I click refresh, you can see that now Bob shows up and Oscar is no longer on here. So it updates in real time for your students. Another one of the Flippity activities that I like, go back to Flippity, is the scavenger hunt. So I think this one's really good if you've got a study guide for your students. So instead of just giving them a study guide, you can break each question up into an individual lock. So if I click on the lock, it's going to take me to the question. You can have the option to give your kids hints. You can see that that was right. I have a green unlocked lock now. I can go back and I can go to the next question. If your students don't know the answer, they can click the back button, choose a different one. Click the hint. So you can see that here's my hint and it's asking me, yes, I want to see the hint. And you can see that on this one, a YouTube video was embedded. So if you do the activity and you decide that you like it, you can click on Want to Make Your Own. Again, it takes you to those step-by-step directions, and you'll click on Make a Copy of this template to get started. Another one I want to show you is the randomizer. So what I like about this randomizer is you can insert up to 10 different columns. Your students will click the randomizer button, it spins the wheel, and you can see that they've got to do something with these terms. So for instance, this one looks like a who, what, when, where. So maybe your students are going to write a story or a sentence using that information. So here's the one that I created. So I created a math one. So I'm going to have my students combine like terms for 5 columns. So I'm going to spin the wheel. My students are going to combine like terms with those terms. And when they're done, they can click the X to get rid of those terms. Go again. So maybe your students are going to fill this out in a Word document. Maybe they're just going to write it by hand and take a picture and submit it to you. There's lots of different ways that you can have your students work on these activities. Again, when you're ready to get home, you just click Flippity. Choose the activity you want. You can look at the demo. If you like it, click Want to Make Your Own. You're going to make a copy of the template. Edit anything that's not a blue cell. So you type in all of the information you want. Pay attention to the options along the bottom. When you're ready to make your activity, you're going to click File, Publish it to the web. Click the green Publish. Click Get the Link and copy that link to go to your activity.